In today's video, let's learn how we can start creating custom events like sign up and begin checkout, then correlate that with a conversion event, which then we can use in our Google ad campaigns. Welcome back, y'all. This video, we are now going to advertising and conversion, which will be very useful so that when you do start getting payments or signups or whatever it may be, you can actually track it, put money towards a paid campaign, and start finding your customer acquisition cost. So for now, with payment, since we finished that in our previous lesson, bye-bye payment. Now we go to our last block here, advertising. For me to best do this tutorial, I'm just going to walk you step by step of all the new code I added to a repository and tell you the logic behind it, as this is going to become very clear and evident of what's even occurring. Step number 1, there is a clear differentiation between an organic user and a paid user. That is the whole purpose of the GCLID. That is not a made-up variable name. Rather, that is an actual variable that is found in the URL of your website when a user clicks a Google ad through YouTube, search, or whatever it may be, that exists in your URL. So, for example, here, it'd be /GCLAD equals then a random string up there. I'll go ahead and zoom in, or can't zoom in, but you can see right there. The idea is this, though. We need to know whether the user is paid or organic. And the way we do that is with the GCLID, which is provided by Google Ads. Let's make sure Google Ads is enabled in our project. Go to our settings here. Coming over to integrations, you're going to click link. Manage linking Google Analytics. Other way of finding it is in admin, product links, but we're going to simply hit link. Choose Google Ad account. It actually looks like I need to give this email access to another Google Ads account to show this, so let me do that real quick. So I have my little fake Google Ad account created here. Just create a test real quick. If I go back to Google Analytics, now I hit link. It will show up right here. And the reason this is a test is because this current email that I use for all my tutorials is like an email that's purely for tutorials. This is not my main corporate email. I'm gonna hit confirm. Once I hit confirm, I'm gonna hit next. Go ahead and check all these enabled, hit next, submit. Once you get link created, we have successfully finished the first step here. Coming over to our Google Ad account, we need to make sure a couple settings are enabled. So I'm gonna go to settings and admin. Basically, what's extremely important here is that we enable auto tagging. That has to be yes. That's going to ensure that we see the GCLAID show up in our URL. Once that's done though, let's move to the next step. We have successfully linked our Google Ads account. Also for reference, GCLID stands for Google Click Identifier. Therefore, we need to know whether or not the user that comes to our website is from a paid campaign or organic, and to do so, we're going to check their actual URL. So using this code right here, we're going to simply search the URL, see if GCLID exists, and if it does, we're going to store that in the user's local browser with local storage set item GCLID. This sets it in the user's browser. For example, they log in 5 days later, they come back to the same website, we can still grab that GCLID. This is fundamental. I also put in this console log here so you can kind of see what I mean. So if I inspect here and I go to console, you will notice if I reload that the GCLID is empty, and that's because in the actual URL itself, there is no GCLID. Although if I did come from a paid ad campaign and I had a GCLID in my URL, it would show up there and stored. Obviously, don't keep console logs on as you don't want the user to see console logs. This is purely for testing. So now that we have that, the next step here is how do we leverage this specific data point throughout our application? Therefore, the first thing we need to do is add tag code. Now, this is very familiar. If you've ever done WordPress or Shopify, this makes sense. They usually have this code anyways. This allows us to track throughout the entire application relevant variables that we care about. And in this context, it's going to be Google Analytics, sign up, checkout, etc. So for us, all we need to do simply is in our EMV, provide the React App GA4 measurement ID. Don't worry, this is the exact same thing as the measurement ID here, G-whatever. So add that to your EMV. And then we're going to add this code right here, this helmet. This helmet is going to be basically anywhere within this application, whether you're logged in or logged out, this code is running. This allows us to see any of the user's actions, and we're specifically tracking for the sign up action here. This code right here, simply put in the cursor AI chat, hey, I need helmet code for a Google tag, or alternatively, just look at the source code I provide throughout this entire series. Once you have that, come over to your auth context. Now, remember, when we set up our auth context, the purpose of our auth context was to tell us whether a user was signed in or signed out, whether they were authed, as we said previously with this right here. But now, during this transition phase of auth and unauth, we need to add the logic of identifying a fresh signup, which we do right here. And notice how we are grabbing get item, the GCLID, to see whether this is an organic or a paid signup. Then layering this onto basically sending this as an event into our GA4 with send signup event, which you can see right here. We'll send the signup event with the GCLID and the method, whether that's Google or email. We also identify the naming of the event here with sign_up. There's additional logic here to make sure there is no doubling of a sign up event occurring with the last sign in time. In theory, if you're a fresh sign up and you've never signed up before, of course, you're not going to have a last sign up time because that won't even make any sense. For now, though, that's the sign up event code. It's found in your auth context. It's found in your home.js. Proceed. Make sure you add that Google tag code on the app.js at the top here. This will be leveraged throughout the entire application. Which brings us to our backend here, which is our main.py. Now for main.py, we got to add 3 very specific variables here. We got to add the measurement ID again, so we know where we're grabbing this. That's that G dash. But we also got to add a GA4 API secret. This allows Google Analytics to know when we send a message, it's coming from a trusted source, which is our own application. So let's go ahead and set up our GA4 API secret. To do this, go to your admin. In admin, we're going to scroll down. We're going to come to data streams. In data streams, simply click your app. Scroll all the way down. Go to measurement protocol API secrets. Now, I've already created one, and I'm obviously going to delete this one once I'm done. But we're going to go ahead and create. Name it something that is relevant to you, and you'll understand. To be clear, when doing software development, you'll have a QA environment and a prod environment. So in theory, up to this point, you've probably been creating your prod environment. So it'd be like prod GA4. Whatever you want to name it, and then hit create. Once you've created it, simply copy that value. Then in your env, as we set up plenty of times before, copy that, paste into your env, and then just simply paste the relevant API secret right after it. Equals secret. The next line here is a specific URL and our way of communicating with Google Analytics through a Python function, which is going to be the Google Analytics collect measurement ID, give it, and the secret, which is going to be these variables we load in from the env. This then gives us the ability in any logic, in any context, to set up custom events throughout our application, regardless if it's a begin checkout or a purchase. This could be anything. One great event that we personally use at BumpUps is the ability to process a workspace. That's a custom event that we like to track. Coming down here, though, we will go ahead and set up the logic to track begin checkout. E.g., the user hits purchase, goes to Stripe checkout, and then we can track that as a data point. To do so, remember in the front end, we are passing that GCLID in this purchase here. This is what we did in the earlier tutorial here. Initiate purchase. Part of the payload is that GCLID that we're grabbing from local storage. So if it exists, it will show up in this payload, which then is grabbed here. And here, it sees if GCLID exists. If it does, proceed. If it doesn't, it's empty, so it doesn't really matter. And then scrolling down here, we're going to send this event to GA4 with the UID, GCLID, and plan. In reality, the only one that's really pertinent to us is going to be the GCLID to differentiate whether this is a conversion through paid or organic. So in order for us to do this, though, we need to create a whole separate logic for just the event of sending this data. So obviously, if you don't have either of these variables identified in your env, it's going to skip it. So that's a nice little error code there. But if you do, we're good to go, and we can scroll down here to where the payload is actually sent. This is just metadata stuff that if you want to add, you can add it. So for example, maybe it was USD, maybe the value was 100, whatever it may be. This is just metadata stuff. What we really care about in order for the event to actually be sent will be this right here, which will be the begin checkout. And then we're going to be sending it with the response request post the GA4 URL that we identify up there, right here. Here's what you need to take away from this. Notice, we can change the naming of the event to whatever we want. This could be anything. This could be apples and bananas. Whatever it may be, this gives you the ability to have some really cool custom data that you can track in your software, like any type of custom event. Pretty cool stuff here. Like for some reason, if you wanted to have a custom event where anytime the user clicks settings, you can do that. That's all up to discretion. That's all how you want to approach your application. But, standard stuff like begin checkout will show up here. With all of this done, though, that's it. That's connecting the dots there. What's great about Google, other than the fact that it's Google, is its ability to basically identify that if GCLID shows up in the metrics payload, it identifies that it knows it's a paid traffic. So what happens here essentially is if I come over here to analytics, actually let's go to admin, and I come down to events, you will notice that when I do my event here, it's not going to show up right away. Don't worry. Sometimes events take an entire day to show up. So in this video, I'm not going to be able to show you from like end to end, like the process in the sense of just making it a conversion event. But in reality, to do that, all you need to do is mark as key event. So when you see sign up show up here, mark it as a key event. Then I'll show you the next step in the Google Ads account. For now, though, let me just show you it working. So my GA4 is not going to be perfect in the sense of just like one sign up, one begin checkout, because I have been testing this earlier today. But for now, I'm simply going to say, let's get started. Sign in with Google, creating a new account, And then boom, that should click off as one GA4 event for one sign up. The next one that's going to click off an event is when the user hits purchase. I hit purchase. When I find myself on this page, boom, second one's clicked. That's the begin checkout event that we'll see in GA4. Therefore, there we go. We get the sign up event here and the begin checkout. This will show up in your real-time overview. This is live feed, live data. If you click that purchase button and you don't see begin checkout there for like 10 minutes, something went wrong. So what is super cool is that obviously make sure you're in the right date range. So today's the 16th, but it says it's the 15th, whatever it may be, they will show up here. When they finally do show up there, you're going to mark as a key event. And then in our key events, this leads us to our next stage here, which is identifying a key event within Google Ads as a conversion event that we actually care about and we can track and we can actually optimize campaigns for. So in Google Ads, they call them goals or whatever your version of a conversion event is. Obviously, it goes past Google Analytics 4. Like there is a ton of different ways you can get conversion events. Like you can create custom conversion events. For now, though, we're purely basing this off GA4. So first off, let's just make sure we have this all correct. Go to your tools, scroll down, go to Data Manager. You should see Google Analytics GA4 Firebase. That's the first thing. Now, before we can create a goal event with Google Ads, we got to make sure we give consent. So you're going to go to your connected products here and hit Manage a Link. From here, hit Manage. So then what you'll notice here is that we need to make sure this Boolean is on. Import app and web metrics, hit on. Save changes. With that done, now we should be able to create a conversion event. From there, once begin checkout and sign up actually shows up in my Google Ads account as a key event, which typically takes around 24 to 48 hours, I'll then be able to import that as a conversion event that I can use as a goal within my Google Ads campaign, which finally leaves us with Xing out the final block, advertising and conversion. Man, this has been a long time, y'all. I think in total, this playlist took me around 2-3 months to complete, but full-blown back end, a lot of very fundamental bricklink stuff we went over in this playlist. So give yourself a pat on the back. I don't know how much coffee you drink through this entirety of this series. I know I drink a ton. I probably listened to the same Swedish House Mafia like 20 different times on repeat when I was doing this. But for now, you already know where this is leading to and where we're going, which is going to be right down here. The full build of a real software, all live, all done from step 0 to step how much money we making, what's our MRR. And I want to do this right. That's kind of why I built out an entire playlist for the front end and an entire playlist for the back end. Because in this playlist, that's combining it all. That's going to give proper front end structuring for a scalable app. And that's going to give proper back end structuring for a scalable app. Some of those lessons will be found exclusively on the school community that you're currently on. And then the other half will be found on just YouTube, the interwebs. This is going to be a fun series. I'm looking forward to this. And I probably am going to do it during a very specific time, which I probably won't announce anywhere else. So if you found yourself on this part of the video at the end of this entire series, this is very niche information about myself. And that information is that pretty soon here, I'm going to go full-blown digital nomad. I'm going to be traveling the world, but also making these kind of videos. So there's going to be other videos and other topics that aren't necessarily correlated to what you're watching right now. But the point being is this. When I entertain this and do this, I'm going to be doing it while I pursue being a digital nomad. Regardless, though, that completes this series. We've officially done everything we needed to do for the fundamentals of creating out a full stack AI app application. Does that sound good? I'll see you in the next video.